Hey, Dr. Kuntz here. Welcome back to today's Daily Prime. I wanted to go over when is it safe for me to return back to Pilates after I've had a back injury. I've had quite a few people kind of reaching out to me who are interested in getting back to Pilates. At this point, I would want to give a shout out to the Club Pilates down in the South Providence location. I've got a great relationship with them. They've got some great instructors and great classes. So if you are looking to get back into Pilates, or maybe you're interested in trying Pilates for the first time, I highly suggest them, and I'll go ahead and tag them in this post too so you can get a hold of them. But you know, back injuries, the number one most common orthopedic injury and reason that people come to see physical therapists. So the reason is, the nature is you're going to have back injuries at one point or the other. And if you're trying to get back to Pilates, knowing that there's a good amount of core involved, I could see how the question would percolate up, you know, if it's safe or not. I do want to kind of give a shout out to the thought that Pilates is actually quite gentle on the low back. And in fact, for a lot of those who've had back injuries, I think Pilates is a really nice gap bridger to help people get moving again and to be somewhat safe and in a controlled manner. You know, if you compare that to a pretty aggressive style, maybe boot camp type of training when there's a lot of people going on, it's very intense, that can be tougher for a back to return. Or even a pretty intense sport. You know, if you're really rotating and putting a lot of shear stress on that back, that too can be tough for the back to get back. But Pilates is actually very core centric. And also what I really like about Pilates is that instead of, you may not be able to see me here, but instead of a very big arch in your spine, Pilates actually a lot of times incorporates more of a neutral spine position, or even at times it'll incorporate what we call a posterior pelvic tilt, where you'll actually kind of engage in your glute to help stabilize the low back and to help kind of open up and create forms of traction and distraction in your low back. A lot of times too in Pilates, based off even my brief experience of trying out Pilates, is that there's a lot of more open chain movement rather than closed chain. What that means is that your feet are often in space and they're encouraging your glutes and your core to work in the comfort of their own position, rather than more compressive force, which would be, you know, with your feet grounded onto the floor, where there's a lot more compressive force onto the spine. And a lot of times your body is supine or side lying, and these are generally very nice, supportive, non-stressful positions for the lower spine. They're kind of allowing that spine to have a better environment to safely and more easily contract muscles, so you can continue to get a good workout. You can even get a good sweat, even if you're lying down and side lying or on your back, what have you. And of course, over at the Club Pilates at the South Providence, they've even got some different forms of some elastic resistance that you can use, as well as some TRX poles, and that way it can be pretty dynamic. So for yes, a lot of you, I think it's a great idea to return back to Pilates following a back injury. Statistically, 90% of you will feel better after 2 weeks, which is great. So I would suggest if you've sustained a more acute injury, you're probably looking at a week to 2 timeline before you could reintegrate back into your Pilates. There are usually different levels of courses, from beginners, intermediates to experts. So even if you were an expert, you might want to stick back down into more of the beginner level and just make sure that you feel safe, that you're gaining your confidence back, and then kind of work your way up. Just be careful, don't do what I do, which is jump back in 1000% and go really hard and pretend like nothing happened. That's usually my mistake. Make sure you don't be like Chad and you slowly go back into it. Again, it's really important that you make sure you're confident when you do so, because I know mentally it can be draining for you to kind of keep thinking and wondering, is that back pain going to come back? Put yourself in a better situation to the point that you know you're in a good environment. You know that you can handle the amount of load that you're being required to do with the Pilates, and that you can do it safely. All right, so guys, that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for tuning into today's Daily Prime. Have a great rest of your day.